tucking a sleeve of rice crackers into the picnic basket I had packed for them. But in fact, nobody's searching for Jake except me. They're not even pretending. I don't know what this means, but it feels sinister, and panic rises in my chest. I inch away from the cliff, avoiding a scattering of deer turds, and lie back on pine needles and moss. "Why are you doing this, Jake?" I cry silently, like he's hiding from me on purpose. Near me, a bird starts up, an uninspired little song, like a gate swinging back and forth on rusty hinges. I close my eyes against the sky, a perfect sky, and sling up an elbow to deepen the darkness. I've been sucked into something I don't want to be any part of. That's how it feels, like my ordinary life has morphed into a crime drama with its crude apparatus of suspects and motives and weapons and clues. Not at all the story I had in mind for myself, but the universe insists. "Here," it says. "Right here." I lift my arm and turn my head against the moss, and I see it. A shell casing. A bright brass shell casing, nestled in ground cedar 2 feet from my nose. Rewind. Go back a few weeks, to a Saturday in April when I took a train into Toronto. It was Easter weekend, to be exact. Jake and I were living in Adlington, a small town an hour northwest, where I was part owner of a farm-to-table restaurant called The Grange. Not yet open for the season, and probably closed for good. Jake had an art show in Toronto that night. Not a major show, just a remount at a new artists' center called The Arc, and I assumed we'd take the train in together. But around noon, a text from Jake's agent landed on my phone. "I only hope all the bridges he's burning are helping to light his way." Jake is a nocturnal animal, and he was still outside in the shed he uses as a studio. I crossed the yard and barged in. At the sight of him asleep on his futon, I felt a sharp longing to strip off my jeans and crawl in with him, into the warmth and the smells that collect under a quilt through the night. He sensed something and opened his eyes. "You're not going to your show?" I said. He pulled himself to a sitting position. "No," he said. He was wearing a t-shirt, and his jeans were crumpled on a chair. The light from the skylight fell on his tangled hair. His eyes were calm, not angry or defiant. It was like he was claiming the high ground by declining to explain. We had just endured a few weeks of awful silence, and it was, I guess, a tipping point. I tore into Jake, my voice low and ferocious, strange even to my ears. When I ran out of words, he said, "You'd leave me if I told you everything, so I think you should leave." I stared at him in shock. "All right, Jake," I heard myself say. "Hope you have a nice life." I turned and walked back to the house, where I went straight to my phone. One of our neighbors had mentioned she was going to Brampton that day, and I called her and asked for a ride. The train was waiting when she pulled into the Brampton station, and I got on and found a seat alone. All I had in my shoulder bag was a hairbrush and toothbrush, mascara, and moisturizer. This might suggest I didn't consider that stupid kiss-off an actual breakup, but as the train pulled out, I began to grasp that it was. We were breaking up. By the time we slid into Union Station, I was fighting to hold myself together. From the rail tracks, the city struck me as abandoned. When I walked out of the station, the towers leaning over me looked higher than ever and more audacious. I came to an intersection where you can't see sky at all, and I hesitated, stepping off the curb. And then I heard a raw old voice singing, "Don't think twice, it's all right."